Takes from the Deep End.
Man, that music hits sometimes, man. I love it.
Dude.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sir. So why don't you choose a number 1 through 6?
4.
Since there's only 2 of us. Number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So takes from the deep end. Who would you rather have as Tua's high-priced backup? Gardner Minshew or Marcus Mariota?
I'll take C, Jameis Winston. If I have to pick between these two, I think I'm probably going to go with Gardner Minshew just because I like his style. I like his flash. I think that I don't know that he's played better ball than Mariota, but he's played more recent ball than Mariota. So I would probably have to go with Minshew because.
So of those two, you're leaning towards Minshew, but not feeling it either one of those.
Yeah, I would most definitely rather have Jameis.
Fair.
If it came down to these two, though, I'd rather have Minshew.
Yeah, of those three that we mentioned, Minshew, Jameis, or Mariota, I would actually prefer to have Mariota. I think he fits better with kind of what this scheme is. He's, from the same kind of. I think he played at the same high school as Tua. They know each other. Their families know each other. They're both from Hawaii. I think it would just kind of the fit seems, a little bit better.
What we could do, we could sign Brock Purdy to back him up.
There you go. Yeah,
I just solved it, dude.
Man, you're just solving all kinds of problems. I love it.
I'm all over here.
I absolutely love it, brother. All right, so let's see. Let's go here. Takes from the deep end. Now, this team has been rated number 1 in back-to-back years in player-voted team report cards based on working conditions. Our players clearly have the best of everything, yet they still complain and show up late to team events. Honestly, it's time to clean house. At the end of the season, sorry, this thing is going a little slow, and hit the rebuild button. What are your thoughts?
Okay, it's not time to rebuild, but it is time for new leadership. I think I said this at the end of last season.
I think we all did. Yep.
Yeah, wasn't a fan of bringing McDaniel back because I know he gets A+ from the players because he's a player's coach. Of course, they're going to give him A+. We need a leader at the position. Players show up late without repercussions because he's not a leader, right? Players talk smack in the media without repercussions because he's not a leader. We need a real leader at head coach. I don't know Mike McDaniel personally, so it's really out of the realm to say that he's not a leader without knowing him. But the things that we see on the field, the things that we see happen after the games, the way the team collapses in key moments, I mean, these are all indicators that they just don't have a strong enough leader.
Yeah, I think, look, where you can like Mike McDaniel as, he seems like a pretty chill dude, but where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And there's been too many instances where this team either A, doesn't seem prepared or doesn't seem engaged or doesn't seem, on the flip side, seems stubborn in their decision-making, both from a player standpoint and from a coaching standpoint. Jesus, I just spit all over myself. Sorry. I just, I'm with you. At the end of the season, I was very weary because word was that, if you use the term hot seat, that Mike McDaniels and Chris Greer were on the hot seat going into next season. And you and I talked about it with the fellas at length, where I think you and I were pretty aligned on this, where it's like, if you're going into the next season with your coach and or GM, in this case, both on the hot seat,
right?
What's the point of risking blowing through, call it half a season when you fire your coaches, as opposed to making the move now, moving into a different direction and kind of hitting a quasi reset.
I mean, exactly. There's no interim head coach ever that has made it to the playoffs or made it to the Super Bowl. Or if you fire your coach in the middle of a season, you are admitting that season is over, right? And that's a killer. Why would you even want to watch at that point? And we still have to talk about it for however many weeks that ends up being, which selfishly, I don't want to do that.
But I will say, from a content standpoint, it does make some juicy stuff.
It will be great. I will say, I don't know where you stand on this, Josh. I am a fan of empathetic leadership. I love the fact that leaders are becoming more aware of the feelings of the people that they lead and their needs and trying to take care of that, right? What I don't think is that it's a fine line, because if you go too far and there aren't repercussions, or the people don't look at you as the leader anymore, more as a friend, that's too far for me, right? I mean, I taught last year, right? I taught adults. that's a very difficult thing because they're adults. They're not kids. They don't
Yeah.
automatically give you respect or anything
Right.
like that. Like
Yeah.
I earn that respect by being empathetic to their needs, but also if they did something stupid or they did something wrong, they got punished for that. They had to deal with the repercussions of that. Like you can't have empathy without, punishment for taking advantage of that sort of leadership style.
Right. And what was a common theme? And we said this on the podcast, and we weren't the only ones that said it, but like, what was the common thing last year? There didn't seem to be any sort of accountability.
Right.
Right. And that's what happens, to your point, when I don't want to use the word overcorrect, but when you lean into that more empathetic style of leadership, as opposed to and I wouldn't go the hard other side either, where you're a complete disciplinarian and you
Yeah, that
don't
doesn't
give
work anymore,
no,
right? Like
because then your players are held to standards that they feel like they can't meet. You need somewhere in the middle.
Mhm.
Ideally, a coach like Mike Tomlin, I feel like, and I know it's like, hey, grab the guy that's never had a losing season. That's the easy thing to do. But a coach like that, because he seems to to have found that razor's edge between being empathetic when needed, learning what players need the coddle, what players you can be hard with, what players don't need any kind of direction because they're self-motivators, and so on and so forth. And Mike McDaniel, I feel like, really just leans into that. I'm going to be everyone's best friend. High five. We'll figure this out later.
You and I are both huge fans of the show Ted Lasso, and
Mhm.
one of the I think it's episode 3. Like you're already getting this feeling that Ted Lasso is a very positive. He leads with positivity, right?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So I won't go into too much detail. He leads with positivity, but by the 3rd episode, you can already tell there's one player in particular that is being too much. He's not right. He's not falling into the leadership style that Lasso's pitching. So then Lasso has to what? Discipline him, right? Like it just doesn't matter how much positivity or how much empathy or how much friendliness you put into being a coach. You still are the leader, and that's as much as we've been on this soapbox for 5 minutes now. Let's move on.
So I know we're a little bit over where we normally end, but there is one more that I like to get to, and I will just present it to you and let you give your thoughts on it.
Let's do 2 more. Let's make it 4. It makes for a better cut up.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. A little back scene conversation for those that are watching. All right. So this one is really fun. This kind of goes right into what we were just talking about. So would it be a complete failure if we walk away from rounds 1 and 2 with key starters, example being a star linebacker and a starting safety, but neither of the first 2 picks are on the offensive line? Would you consider the draft a complete failure?
I mean, I can't call it that because I don't know how good these guys are going to be yet. That's like saying I have a crystal ball. Would I be annoyed? Hell yeah, I would be annoyed. I mean, especially if in free agency we didn't do what we thought we needed to do to address, the trenches. I mean, we've been talking for weeks now ad nauseum about how the trenches need to be rebuilt. So to come out of the first 2 rounds with a linebacker and a safety, that's great. We filled 2 needs, but our trenches are still crap.
Well, I mean, assuming I guess I assume that the person that put this take in was under the assumption that we addressed it, like we'd mentioned, like they addressed something in free agency.
If it's addressed, it's addressed, right? Like I'm not going to say like, oh, we need to sign 4 offensive linemen and draft 3 of them. That's ridiculous. Like that's the overcorrection we've been talking about. If we sign 3 guys who are potential starters and we draft another one in like I would say the first 2 days you still have to draft an offensive lineman. But if that's picked round 3, then that's fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, I agree with you. Call it 90%, right? I think if we come away with key starters at the linebacker and the safety position, and we sign at least 1 starter, call it, in free agency, I think it was a success in my opinion, right? Because to your point, we filled key positions of need at the middle of our defense and the back end of our defense with players that are going to be long-term solutions potentially.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, at the end of the day, we'll end up judging this draft based on how good the players in the first 3 rounds end up being.
Of course.
And then anybody else who's good 4 through 7, that's
icing on the cake.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. So last take of the evening. Again, for those that are new to the show, these aren't our takes. We just collect and rebuttal, and allows us to have some fun conversations. So in the same draft vein, right? We never seem to hit on offensive linemen in the draft. We should just nut up and sign 2 high-priced starters in free agency and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with this, to be honest.
Yeah,
I really
me
would.
too.
Me too. I mean,
I think that's
would.
a real quick one. And
Yeah.
because that is a quick one, unless you have something else you'd like to
let's
add.
go.
The last one that I have for tonight's show, I'm actually glad we get to it. This is a DK Metcalf take.
There we go.
Takes from the deep end, right? DK Metcalf should be the last thing we swing a trade for, unless word comes down the pipe that the Bills are in on him.
Oh, 100%. If the Bills are in on him, you swoop, baby. You swoop.
Here's Tyreek Hill in a third.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any Brooklyn Nine-Nine fans out there, but you vulture that, all right? You hop in there and you steal that crap. We are not letting the Bills get better.
Yep.
You got to pull a Philly.
Could you imagine him on the Bills? Ugh.
The Bills are right now like one of the favorites for Holland.
Oh my God, that would just be such a Dolphins thing.
Annoying.
Wouldn't it just be such a Dolphins thing?
It would be so annoying.
That spiteful little twerp better not go there. That's
All
it,
right.
brother.
That's it. So this is a terrific show, Josh. Love chopping it up with you here for nearly 2 hours. We talked everything about free agency, what do Greer and McDaniel usually look for over the past 3 years in free agency? What do we think they should look for in free agency? We got our first, not our first draft coverage, but we started to get into it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got some names to look up now. Hopefully you were writing them down. You can rewind it to YouTube. It's fine.
Yep.
Go back, look at those names. Watch some highlight videos on YouTube. That's all I'll be doing. And get prepped for the draft. It's coming fast. The end of April.
Yeah. Gonna be here before you know it.
Yeah. And free agency starts next week. So, and then we get into a lull where nothing happens for 2 months or something like that. And then we're back in football action.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you to Armando and Luat in the chat for joining us live tonight. Every single Wednesday night at 7 p.m. we will be live, except for draft day where we'll be live during the draft. So come join us.
Yes.
It's a Thursday night. And I don't know if we're doing day 2, but maybe we'll let you know.
And just a quick announcement, right? Make sure you're tuned into next show. We have a huge announcement.
Right.
Talking about a guest that's going to be joining us for the March 19th.
Yeah.
Oh, that is next show, isn't it?
The show after next.
The show after next. Yeah.
Yeah.
So next show, make sure to join us. We have a huge guest. I am super excited that he's going to be joining us for most of the show.
Reacting to free agency.
Yeah. And it is for our free agent reaction show. So stay tuned.
Going to be awesome. Can't wait. So for Josh, aka Aqua Ace, I'm Anthony Pinzone. This has been another episode of the Phins Forecast. Please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Hit the little notification bell if you want to know when we're going live. It's every Wednesday at 7. You already know. And join us next week as we're going to talk more about free agency and more about the NFL draft. It is our favorite time of year. So until next time, Fins up.